boys and girls. Today's lesson for math is called Tall Enough to Ride. And this is one of my favorite math lessons that we do because you are really needing to use your brains and think in this lesson. So it starts out like this. I am going to talk about a little story problem. And in the story, I went to an amusement park, like a place where they have roller coasters and rides. And there was a ride with a sign that said, "You must be this tall to ride." And I wondered if any of you would be tall enough to ride. But the sign did not have any numbers or markings, measurements on it. So I needed a way to remember so I could describe how tall the sign was. I did not have any string, but I found some sticky notes in my bag and I used them to measure the sign. And it was 12 sticky notes tall. The sticky notes that are like this size, boys and girls. All right? So today, we are going to figure out, or you are going to figure out, if you are tall enough to go on this ride. Now, you may recall a few weeks ago, I was measuring a string to see how tall you were. Stand up, Em. Well, we don't have those strings right now, but I'm sure that you can recreate your height with a string fairly easy. This is some, eyes are from, yarn that we had in our house for one of Emma's crafts that she was done with. I was also thinking about like if you have thread in your house for sewing, that could be used. Or I also thought, Emma, can you lay down for me? If you didn't have any string in your house, but maybe you could access some tape, that you could have a grown-up put your feet up, mark how tall you are with the tape. The important part is getting something on the ground to see how tall you are. Put your head this way, so that you can do the measuring and not somebody else doing the measuring. All right, so, all right, you're good, stand up. Here we have a piece of tape, just some masking tape on the carpet. It's not sticking real great, but that is okay. We don't really need it to stick great. We just needed to see how tall Emma is. Now, we also, since we have her string, will lay out her string. Needs to go this way a little bit. There. All right. Now, to ride the ride, we had to be 12 sticky notes tall. I have some sticky notes here, but you might not have sticky notes. This size sticky note is, I'm going to have to measure. I think it's like 2.5. I will measure and put that in the directions. But I thought, my friends, that if you don't have sticky notes, I'm actually thinking that a Matchbox car, yep, would be about the same length as a sticky note. So if you do not have sticky notes at home, I know some of you have quite the car collection, or maybe a brother has quite the car collection, and you could use the cars the same way that we are going to use the sticky notes today. Maybe mommy and daddy have sticky notes, but they don't really want you using a whole bunch of them, which I totally get. So maybe if you could have 3 sticky notes, that would also be enough to help you measure your string or your tape. All right? So let's start like this. First of all, we learned when we measured what is very important to do. Should I start with my first Post-it note here and up from the end? No. Emma, where should I start measuring?
Right here.
Right here. I need to line up the edge of the sticky note with the edge of my tape. So far that is one sticky note. Now, the other part that is important, boys and girls, do you think I should have a big gap here in between my sticky notes? No, Emma does not like that, boys and girls. Where do you think that sticky note should go?
Right here.
Right there. All right, and then I will put on my third sticky note. All right, now what we can do, boys and girls, since we don't want to use up a bunch of sticky notes that we don't need to, we're going to remember 3. We're going to take the bottom one, move it up, say 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Oh, well, if she has 13, are you tall enough to ride the ride?
Yes.
Yes, but let's see how many sticky notes tall you are. 13, 14, 15, 16, and 17 sticky notes tall. Now, if you don't have sticky notes, but you do have cars, or maybe a similar toy that you have a lot of,
Like one of those.
but we do need to make sure it's about the size of our sticky note, because that is what I used to measure how tall the ride is. So we could just get our cars out and start lining them up. And again, my friends, we want to put them so that there's not a space in between. We don't want to overlap this way. We want to put them right next to, oh, there goes Nala, right next to one another until we are all the way up to the top, which I'm not going to eat up time doing it with the cars because we did already figure out Emma's number of sticky notes that she is. Then, once you've figured out how many sticky notes tall you are, boys and girls, there will be a seesaw activity for you to respond and tell me if you are tall enough to go on the ride. All right, so I look forward to seeing who is tall enough. Actually, do we have a ruler in there real quick?
I think so.
Who is tall enough to ride? All right, since we're still being recorded, my friends, let's see. All right, they are 3 inches by 3 inches. So something that you might have that is about 3 inches long would work to substitute for our sticky notes. All right, and remember, if you don't have string, maybe you have some tape so that you are the one measuring. All right, we don't want the child laying down and me using the sticky notes next to them because they aren't the person measuring them. All right, boys and girls, I look forward to seeing your responses.